Today, we're going to be going over some true Reddit horror stories. So let me know how you guys like these stories. And let me know what videos you guys want to see next. We're trying to hit that goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so make sure to show some support down below. Let's get right into it. Has anyone seen the upside down woman? I don't believe in the supernatural. Never have, never will. But everything the last few days has me questioning everything. I haven't slept, I haven't eaten, I haven't left my house. Yet, I fear she will get me anyway. Let me start at the beginning. I was driving home from a friend's party 3 days ago. I'd stayed late and it was already dark out. And then, something caught my eye. On the third floor of an old Victorian house, the light was on. In the window, I saw a shape. The shape of a woman hanging upside down. It was as if her feet were somehow tied to the ceiling, and she was hanging upside down in midair. Her arms somehow hung naturally at her sides, defying gravity. But her hair hung straight down from her head, ending in little wispy threads. No detail, just a silhouette. As soon as I recognized it, I was already past the house, so I turned around and drove past it again. This time, I only saw some rumpled curtains with tassels and a lamp in the window, which, maybe if you squinted real hard, could look like a woman hanging upside down. I shook my head and kept driving home. I'd had a lot of pareidolia jump scares like this. Pareidolia is our brain's tendency to see faces and shapes in randomness, like how we see clouds that look like animals or knots of wood that look like faces. Sometimes, I think I have an overactive sense of pareidolia. For example, years ago, when I got bangs cut for the first time, I started seeing shadow people. It took me an embarrassingly long time to realize the shadow people was hair falling into my eyes, that my brain was interpreting as some sort of demon or spirit. So I didn't give the upside down woman much thought, until I saw her again. I was on the subway into work. Lights caught my eye, out the window, as another subway passed us in the opposite direction. I looked up, and there she was. The silhouette of a woman, hanging upside down in the passing subway car. Pressed against the window, blurred by the speed of the train. I only saw her for a split second, and then she was gone as the train rattled past us. What the fuck? I must have just seen like a black jacket draped over a seat or something, right? My heart began to pound. I stared out the window for the rest of my commute, but all the other passing subways were fine, filled with commuters staring at their phones. When I got out at the station, my legs were so weak I thought I might collapse. But I forced myself to work. I didn't see anything strange on the way back from work, either. When I got home, I tried to distract myself, binging the nastiest stuff on HBO and plowing through an entire bag of chips. Then, I finally went to sleep, only to wake up with a start at 3:03 a.m. I was covered in a film of cold sweat. My heart was pounding, but I couldn't remember any dream. Usually when I woke up like this, the vestiges of some nightmare were still in my head. This time, there was nothing. I rolled over, pulling the covers up to my chin, and closed my eyes. Wait, there was something in the darkness of my room that didn't look quite right. I opened my eyes and looked around the room, my heart hammering. The dark shapes of my nightstand, my bookshelves, came into focus. Everything was where it should be, except for the light. It was too dark in here. I rolled back over towards my window and realized that the usual annoying light from the street lamp below was not shining through the curtains. I got out of bed slowly and made my way to the window. I pulled back the curtains, my knees buckled underneath me. She was hanging from the roof. Her feet were tied to the awning of the roof, right in front of my window. Her arms hung loosely from her shoulders. Her hair hung straight down, waving gently in the breeze. Actually, her entire body was waving gently in the breeze. I grabbed the curtains and pulled them shut. I ran over to the light. Then, I tiptoed back to the window and peeked out a tiny slit between the curtains. No. She was gone. I saw the street lamp, the night sky dotted with stars. The next morning, I tried to tell myself it was a dream. I'd had a few weird moments in my life, in the twilight, between dreaming and wake. Sleep is a weird, hallucinogenic continuum, and who is to say I hadn't imagined the woman out my window? Deep down, I knew that wasn't true, but it was a pretty little lie. I made my way to work shaken. I didn't look up at passing subway cars. I drank about 3 cups of coffee. Jeff, ever the charmer, told me I looked super tired, and Tina asked me if I was sick. I didn't tell them what happened. They wouldn't believe me. When I got home, I started searching online for what I'd seen. I found myself scouring urban legend forums and even old posts here on No Sleep, the kinds of places I only visited briefly when I saw the shadow people or when I was looking for a laugh. Now, I wasn't laughing. I was desperately searching for an answer to whatever this was. And then, finally, I found it. Someone claimed their friend had seen the upside-down woman and had died 4 days later. Stay away from windows, they warned. It can only manifest in windows. They also remarked that their friend had at first seen the woman through 2 layers of glass, like through a car window into the window of a home, and then later through only one window, like it was getting closer. Some sciencey person had replied, asking all kinds of ridiculous questions, like if plastic counts or any transparent material. And they replied, there has to be a pane of glass or glass-like material in front of the person. They did not explain glass-like any further. There was no way to avoid windows, unless I lived in the basement. So I moved food, water, and clothing down there while half closing my eyes. I told my boss I was sick. Oh yeah, Tina told me you look sick. Hope it's not COVID? It took me a long time, but then I was settled in. For how long? I didn't know. I didn't know if it was even possible to wait out the upside-down woman. And I didn't even know if I actually believed in her existence in the first place. That was about to change. I decided to get some reading done to get my mind off things. I grabbed my book and, without thinking, grabbed my reading glasses. As soon as I put them on, I screamed. She was hanging from the basement ceiling, hanging in the corner, a void of darkness, hair nearly trailing to the floor. And then, this time, she moved. In jerky, incredibly fast motions, she broke free from the ceiling and scrambled towards me. I ripped the glasses off my face, but not before pain exploded in my arm. When I looked down, there were 4 deep scratch marks on my forearm, dripping blood. That leaves me here. I am sitting in my basement, away from all windows and glass, on the 3rd day. According to the guy on the internet, his friend was killed the 4th day. I don't know what will happen after 4 days. If that means I've waited her out, and she'll move on to another target, or if she'll kill me anyway, glass or not. If you don't hear from me in 24 hours, assume the worst. The baby monitor. Being a new dad was harder than I expected. The sleepless nights, the constant worry, and the sheer responsibility weighed on me in ways I never imagined. But no matter how tired I was, I couldn't resist checking the baby monitor every few minutes, just to make sure everything was okay with our little Emily. It became a habit, almost an obsession, to have that monitor on hand, always listening for any signs of distress. One night, after yet another exhausting day, I dozed off on the couch with the baby monitor by my side. The house was eerily quiet, save for the occasional creak of the old floorboards. In my half-asleep state, I heard it, a soft, almost soothing voice coming through the monitor. At first, I thought I was dreaming, but as the voice continued, I realized with growing dread that this was real. The voice wasn't mine, and it definitely wasn't my wife's. It was low and raspy, yet somehow calm, like someone who had been whispering for centuries. "Don't worry, I'm watching her," the voice said. My heart raced as I shot up from the couch. The voice was so clear, as if someone was in the room with my daughter. I bolted upstairs, my pulse pounding in my ears. I flung open the door to her nursery, expecting the worst. But when I got there, Emily was sound asleep in her crib, her little chest rising and falling peacefully. There was no one else in the room, no signs of anything out of the ordinary. The baby monitor was silent, no trace of the voice that had chilled me to the bone. The next night, I couldn't sleep at all. I sat in the nursery, staring at the monitor, waiting for something to happen. Hours passed, and nothing did. Just as I was beginning to think I had imagined the whole thing, the voice came again, this time more insistent. "She's mine now," it whispered. The monitor suddenly went dead, the screen flickering to black. I leaped to my feet, my mind racing with terror. I rushed to the crib, but when I looked inside, my heart stopped. Emily was gone. The police were called, and a frantic search ensued, but they never found her. They couldn't explain how she had disappeared without a trace, with all the doors and windows locked. The only evidence left behind was the baby monitor, now silent and cold. But every night, I still hear that voice, taunting me, reminding me of what I lost. "She's mine now," it says over and over again, until I'm driven to the edge of madness. I can't bring myself to get rid of the monitor. It's the only connection I have left to Emily, even if it's haunted by whatever took her. Some nights, I stay up, hoping against hope that I'll hear her cry, that somehow she'll come back. But all I ever hear is that voice, and it's slowly driving me insane. I don't know how much longer I can take this. I just want my daughter back, but deep down, I know she's gone, and there's nothing I can do to bring her back. My daughter keeps asking about the man in the walls. When we first moved into our new home, everything seemed perfect. It was an old Victorian house, the kind you'd see on a postcard. Charmingly eerie, but still inviting. My husband and I were excited to raise our 5-year-old daughter, Emily, in a place with so much character and history. The first few weeks were blissful. Emily loved her new room, especially the built-in bookshelf filled with dusty old books left by the previous owners. Everything was fine until one night, Emily came into our room around 3 a.m., clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Mommy," she whispered, tugging on my sleeve, "there's a man in my walls." At first, I thought she'd had a bad dream, so I comforted her and told her there were no such things as men in the walls. I walked her back to bed and stayed with her until she fell asleep. But this didn't happen just once. Over the next few nights, Emily kept waking us up at odd hours, saying the same thing. The man in the walls won't stop talking. My husband and I were concerned, but we chalked it up to an overactive imagination. We assured her that everything was okay, but her stories became more detailed and disturbing. "He's tall with a long coat," she said one morning over breakfast. "He whispers secrets to me, but they're not nice secrets." The more she talked about it, the more unnerved I became. I started to notice little things around the house too. Objects would go missing, only to reappear in strange places. The floors creaked when no one was walking on them, and sometimes there was a faint tapping sound coming from inside the walls. One night, while reading in bed, I heard it. The unmistakable sound of someone shuffling inside the wall behind our bedroom. It was faint, but distinct. My heart raced, but I told myself it was just the house settling. However, the noise grew louder, almost as if someone was dragging something heavy. I nudged my husband awake, and we both listened, frozen. The shuffling stopped abruptly, followed by 3 loud knocks, deliberate, almost like a signal. My husband grabbed a flashlight, and we cautiously went to Emily's room. She was fast asleep, her rabbit clutched tightly in her arms. Suddenly, the tapping started again, this time louder and more frantic. It was coming from behind her bed. My husband immediately went to the basement to check the old pipes while I stayed with Emily. As I sat there, the air grew colder, and I could swear I heard a faint whispering coming from the wall, just like Emily had described. After a few minutes, my husband returned, pale as a sheet. "There's something down there," he whispered. "I found a small door behind the furnace. It's locked from the outside." We didn't sleep that night. The next morning, we called a locksmith to open the door. When he finally pried it open, the stench hit us first. It was a foul, rotting smell. Inside, we found a tiny, hidden room. The walls were covered in scratch marks, and there was a single tattered coat hanging on a rusty nail. But what terrified me the most was the old, yellowed newspaper clipping taped to the wall. The headline read, "Local man goes missing after suspected murder spree, believed to be hiding in walls." We moved out that day. To this day, Emily still asks about the man in the walls. She says he's lonely and wants to be found. I shudder every time, wondering what or who was really whispering to her. That is the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys did enjoy this story, and let me know what kind of videos you would like to hear next, and if you want them longer or shorter. I really do appreciate the support, and would love if you guys dropped a subscribe or thumbs up, whatever. Anything would help. So, see you in the next one.